Hey, you guys, happy holidays. I have been at home and hanging out with family, and, having more times gets me to where, I get more time to look on Instagram and see what the whole world's making in art. It's so cool. So I thought I would share today a bit about a process that I use to easily and artfully promote on Instagram. I hear from so many people that artists, that they would, if they could just outsource this whole thing and they wouldn't have to promote and somebody could do it for them. They don't like talking about their work. It feels exhausting and they just want to make the art. Just leave me alone, let me make the art. That's the part I like. And I so relate to this. But what I'm going to share with you today is how I do this. And it's a certain process. There's 3 key ideas with it. And I think it's going to change the way you approach this. And I think it's can make it so much more fun, so much easier, and totally benefit your art making. There's like five key points to the strategy that I want to hit. This is sort of like high level, kind of just go over it, the thoughts around posting. And then I'll go over this 3-point process that if you keep in mind, I think it's going to make this whole challenge a lot easier. The first sort of part of this strategy, there's a few points here I want to make. The first being that you want your art to be the guide here. You want to stay connected to your art as part of this. Don't think of the social posting, the promotion of your art as something different, because if you do, and you don't enjoy it, and it takes if you feel that it's going to take your energy away, it doesn't have to, and that's what I'm going to be teaching you today. The whole thing is driven by your art. So just like making art and staying in it, what is so important is you have to be focused on what brings you alive in your art for any of this to work, right? If your art practice is not going well, you're not going to be very good at posting about it. You're not going to be very confident about it. You have to be in it. And that's what you're into, is the making of the art. You got to double down on that art making. Just get it so you're in a groove with it. And that comes from choosing, letting go of the things that don't interest you, focusing on what you love. And I'm not going to dive into that today, but that's what's really important, is this discernment. And this is, how you find your best art, is keep on editing out things that don't interest you. If you want to switch the kind of work you're making, to start moving towards that, paying attention to that. And notice what you notice in that process. This process of you getting clarity about what lights you up. It's not like you're going to arrive. You're just going to improve at it. And this quest becomes what you can post about. It's really, really interesting, and it's really authentic because it's yours. It's your journey. Before we're promoting, we have to be focused on the journey itself and be excited by it, or at least challenged by it, and be in pursuit. So there's no point if you don't have a challenge. You need to have something that's challenging you. Just doing the same old thing, you want to be in pursuit of it and paying attention to it and kind of focusing on it a little bit every single day. And if you start noticing this, notice what you're learning that is helpful to you. For you, where you are, whatever it is, what you're learning and what's working for you, and you'll hit things that work for you, first of all, really powerful to share with people. And they will find it valuable and interesting, because no one's going to come up with this stuff. This is your authentic journey, and the content that comes out of it is really original. And that's what rises to the surface when you're putting things out in the world. And so you just want to start noticing this stuff, and you want to take notes. And every time you make art, start paying attention to it. What worked, what didn't, look at it, right? That becomes a practice. You're strengthening you're opening up your art practice and getting more deliberate about it, and being kind of a really thoughtful, more thoughtful maybe than you have in the past. Instead of just showing up, doing something, and then a few days go by, and then you come back and you do something. It's the continuity and the thread of your thinking which will create more and more power in your practice, and better art, more energy, and that creates amazing content, and that confidence, and all of that helps in the promotion phase of this. So that's kind of the overview of this. The guiding principles I want to hit on, that what I really pay attention to get this going. Number one, and there's there's just three or four of them that I think are really, really important. I'm just keeping this really simple for you today. You want to be real. You've got to be absolutely authentic with what you share. And that's why the things that you're going to share about, the ahas in your work, they have come from your practice. Everything I do comes from what I'm making here, and I'm struggling, and I'm trying to make things, and it gives me ideas, and then I have little breakthroughs, and I just share those. It's not hard, because I'm not having to invent anything. I'm doing an art practice which has all kinds of discoveries in it. There's been times when I haven't been making art, and it's really hard to just keep talking about your art or what you're doing as if you were doing it, right? Or just looking at old work and trying to make kind of interesting content out of it. You've got to be in it, and people can feel it. So being real, that's the first point. And just sharing what's true for you. That is everything. Sharing what is hard is especially powerful. That vulnerability, admitting that you're stuck and challenged, is so real, and everyone is. But it makes people understand you better, and they connect better to it, and they share it, and they learn. They can get inside of your head and understand where you are, and it creates amazing connection. People are looking out in the world for content that makes them feel that it's more possible for them. So when you share that you're struggling too, which is true, right? You're not making something up, and they see you continuing even though you're struggling. It gives them a kind of power to do that. It lifts them. It makes it more possible, and they're gonna follow you and go after that content more, and share that and keep it. And it's a conversation. Authenticity is everything. Now, especially for artists, and I'm this way, no one likes to, there's no artifice for artists. It's really about honesty and being real. It's very important that you're into what you're doing. And if you're not into it and you don't have confidence to say that, and you just got to be real. Take it from me. It's the only way to go. And here's the thing, we're trying to make this posting easier for you, and faster and simpler. You don't have to make it complicated. It is so simple. You're just learning a new way to express, a habit of expressing what you're doing, which actually can be really helpful for your art practice. And I'll go over that in a minute. But this principle, number one, be authentic, really, really, really important. And then the second one is something to keep in mind, that because this gets in the way for so many people that I talk to that are trying to share things. They postpone the time when they feel they can be helpful. Their art's not good enough. They haven't had the solo show. They're not selling their work enough, or whatever the conditions that you think you need to do this before you're an expert enough. Just trust me that you don't need to wait. In fact, it's so much more interesting if you're sharing as you go along and you're just figuring it out. You do not need to be an expert. You just need to be you. And it took me a long time to understand this, that I actually can be helpful to some people, not everybody, just in the way I think about something, or the way I talk about my work, or the kind of work I'm making. It's not for everybody, but I can be helpful. And just like you can be helpful, there's ways that you would say something in your way that will totally resonate for someone. And you just need to be just a little further ahead in what you're doing. Just, I mean, by like a couple months even, to be helpful. And so don't get it in your head that you don't have enough followers, or that you can't share what you're doing, and that it won't be helpful. And obviously in the beginning, you're not going to have a lot of people listening. So you just have to kind of go on faith. But very quickly, if you follow these principles, you'll see people will start noticing, and then more people will come, and you'll get in a rhythm with it. You just don't have to be super advanced to help people. It's almost better, because if you're in it kind of in the early stages, like I'm no longer a beginner, and that was a long time ago, and I still tell stories about it, but it's almost better if someone's coaching somebody and they were a beginner like a year ago, and they're helping someone who's just starting out, because it's so fresh in their mind. So the thing about starting early and about sharing your work and just getting in this kind of sharing modality, right? It's so good for your art. When you're sharing what's hard, when you're sharing what you're learning, when what you're sharing, what you're chasing down, what you're inspired by, it becomes more present for you and gets more distilled. When you teach something, when you share something, it just gets bigger for you, and it gets more clear. I mean, this little little 3-point sharing art Instagram posting process I'm going to share with you in a minute. I've always had it in my head, and I've got little notes and everything, but I never like just really distilled it. And it's quite powerful what I'm sharing with you. I'm going to, in like 10 minutes, you're going to have a really good grip on this hard thing. And it becomes easier for me to do and talk about just by putting it out. And I want to teach this to you. So it's no different. It becomes more powerful when you are articulating it, especially when you're sharing it. That first piece of this first principle about being authentic, it's everything. It's also easier. It's awesome. It's just the way to be. You don't have to be wearing the right clothes. Your studio can be messy. Trust me, artists don't care. Maybe it's different for fashion or something, but you can just be you. And I love that. Second, I just went over this. You don't have to be an expert to do this. So there's no excuses. Get started on this. That limiting belief will just shut you down. It's so hard, because when you're putting yourself out there a little, it kind of wears you down a little bit. So you have to come in. You want to post and do things. If you're talking to the camera, you're sharing what you're doing, do it in the morning. Do it when you feel more fresh. Do it when you feel more confident, right? Don't do it in the evening. I'm doing this in the evening, of course. Don't take my advice. But in general, I like to wait until I have a lot of energy and I feel like I've had a good night's sleep and I'm not hungry and I'm been painting a while. I love that. That's the best time for me to articulate what I'm doing, because I'm kind of in it. You want to feel alive from your art. And that's when you share. Don't do it when you're not. That's the whole thing. So how do you do it? You just make sure that you feel good in your art because you're doing it. So this whole posting thing is contingent on making your art in a consistent way. The third thing is, and this is a really cool, and I didn't invent this, I've heard this, I forget who shared this, but it's pretty common knowledge that you want to think about the kind of content you're making, right? So there's 3 kinds really, and there's educational content. This is educational, right? I try to, and there's entertaining content, right? And it's kind of cool to try to make this entertaining. I'm doing it in my studio and here I am, and it's kind of entertaining, but I'm really trying to teach something. And that's a powerful kind of content that a lot of people share and a lot of people want. It's the easiest, well, sort of the easiest kind of content to make, to gather people, to get their attention and have them follow you and start tracking what you're doing. The other kind, so there's entertaining, and that is, humorous or emotional kind of content. And this is also really cool. It's a little harder to do, but that's the kind of content sometimes when if you're really sharing from the heart, it's really emotional that it can be widely shared. I mean, one of the most popular YouTube videos I ever made was one when I just wandered into this topic when I was talking about vulnerability, and I was sharing about how I lost all my money and my marriage fell apart. It was this awful time in my life, and it was, I still cry about it when I remember it. And I did. It was late at night. I was on this Facebook group, and I was telling the story, but it wasn't rehearsed or anything. And I just kind of stumbled through it. It's the most widely watched video on my YouTube channel. It's nuts, right? So that's emotional content. It's entertaining in a way because it's the emotional kind of content. And the third kind of content is just to be encouraging. And I find that I'm able to be encouraging when I see something works for me, and it's like, if I can do this, you can do this. And this is the whole thing with Art to Life. Like I'm always encouraging people because I know it works. And I've seen thousands of people now do these, start making art and get more into it and make it a huge part of their lives and a career and everything. And the same thing with this Instagram posting process. Like, it doesn't have to be a drag. It can be really cool. And it works. And it works for me, so I'm encouraging you to give this a try. So those are three kinds of content. Good to keep in mind. Make it either educational, entertaining, or encouraging, or two of those or all of them. But that's important because sometimes you want to be thinking, like, if you're just posting something just to kind of like make yourself feel better and it's all about you, it just doesn't really work. No, it's not very interesting. Let me just dive into this in the time remaining. This 3-point art posting process. These three ideas, if you hold them, it's going to move the needle as far as your ability to post more easily and really get into a routine with this. Okay, so, and it's connected to your art making. Everything I do is connected to the art making. The energy comes from what you're making, not, promotion, all that. So we're treating it as part of your art making process. So the first step in this is to get in the habit of, when you're working on something, I'm working on these right now, when I finish working on this, before I leave, I take a photograph of it and I post it. I look at it on a camera and then I post it and I talk about what I learned or what's cool about it or what's hard about it. And that's what I'm actually doing. I'm not like making stuff up to get people to follow me. I'm sharing things that I'm learning, and it's part of my art making process now. I find it really helpful to know that at the end of my 20 minutes, at the end of my hour and a half, that I'm gonna take a picture, no matter what. I don't care if it's not done. I don't care if it's not that good. I'll talk about that it's not that good, or I'll talk about that actually I'm really excited about this. This is a piece that's a little ways along. I'm liking it, and but I'm sort of stuck on it, and it's got some things that are working and other things that are not. But I've already posted this, and I'll take a picture of it. So every day when you make art, and even if you do it for 10 minutes, that's part of the practice now. You just take a picture and share it. And you'd be amazed at what happens, because now you're posting every day. And yes, I think if you can free up 10 minutes, 2 hours, 1 hour, 20 minutes, just get this art thing going, right? This consistency. So write down what you learned in a sketchbook, informally, and then take a picture, and then make a caption in Instagram about it, about what you wrote down. And it's kind of the same thing. You just kind of refine it, simplify it. What's the one thing, and people will help you. And then what's cool is you see this giant painting in your camera, which is cool on your phone. Then you see it when it goes on Instagram. And then there's this kind of interesting thing that happens where people say things, which gets your objectivity going when you're not making it. When you leave the studio, you go home, have dinner, you look at Instagram and you see your painting in there. That's powerful. It gives you objectivity. And yes, people are going to say favorable things or not. It's not that you're looking for compliments. It's just you're looking to see how you feel and if anybody can say anything that can move the needle for you. I'm helped so much by what people say sometimes. It's kind of remarkable. So you've now built in a social posting into your art practice. That's it. Like, that's the first step with this. The first primary point to it. The second point to this is that you need confidence. You need that consistency. And so how you build up this confidence is by committing and posting consistently. And I would encourage you to take 30 days, 60 days, give yourself a challenge to do this every single day for 60 days, for 30 days. And the confidence comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. That's the only way it gets better. And your writing will get better, your art is going to get better, and you're doing it. And just take 30 days and every single day do something and post about it. And you won't believe how much better your work gets, how much better your language gets, your writing ability, your communication, and the art improves. And more people will notice it. Because why? They are seeing that you're into it. You're just expressing your enthusiasm, your passion for what you're doing. And it can feel a little like you're going out on the, skinny branches of, when you're having to post, even when you don't feel like it. But I want to encourage you to do this. Just get it. Just do it. Connect it to your art practice. This trust that you're building in yourself, that confidence, is also what you're building with your audience, right? Tell people, I'm going to share what I'm doing every single day for 30 days because I've never gotten this going, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go for it. And when you do it, people are like, wow, this person did it against all odds, and that's when you start building the trust with people. First, it comes for yourself. You build that confidence, and then you become somebody who people can trust. They're going to take you seriously. They're going to listen to what you're saying because you've done the work, right? And work is not a four-letter word. Work is love made visible. It's got to be connected to what brings you alive, right? And then the third piece is how you improve, right? You can get better at this and understand what's happening in this process by noticing, tracking how people are responding, how many people are coming, there'll be certain things you will do that lots more people will share something, for example, or more followers will come because of a certain kind of post, or people will comment more. You want to track that, just like you want to track this process for your art. What's so cool about Instagram is you get to scroll back. You can just look at that grid and go back a week or two and notice what you're doing by looking back at it. So you have a tandem kind of project here where you're going to look back using Instagram. It's so easy to do at your art practice and what's emerging. But then you also want to look back at your Instagram every single week and see what's happening. if people are liking you, liking what you're doing when you're sharing more, if you're writing more. I mean, sometimes, I've sort of noticed that if I really truly spend a little time with the copy, with the caption about what you're making, those ideas, those thoughts, just be real with it and give yourself some time to sort it out. Take 10 minutes. Don't just write, this is what I made today in a hashtag. Really talk about what's happening. It's going to benefit you so much. It's a total twofer. Your work and the journey is going to be so much faster, so much stronger. The art that comes out of it, if you can kind of drop in to what you're doing. And that's awesome captions. That's awesome to communicate that in your Instagram. You're going to pay attention to how you respond when you look at your work. Do you like that? Some posts you won't like as much. How do they look together? What's happening? And then how do others respond to it? First, how do you respond to it? You want to make sure you're loving that grid and what's happening. And then also notice how others are responding. Are you guys all liking the same thing? But that's how you learn. And I don't think there's a world where somebody can come in really and do this for you, especially in the beginning. You've got to become just so dialed in to what lights you up and what the way you post and your own voice. I don't know of anybody who can just come in and look at it and say, okay, here's what you need to do. It's just going to feel generic. I think this way is that your voice in your art and in your communication, which that's all social posting is going to mature and improve together. And it's the coolest process in the world. And it brings you alive and builds your energy. You should be able to get more energy from this art making, social posting tandem project than just making art alone. This posting, this sharing will increase your energy. And that's a really cool thing to get. Like this way of doing this 3-point Instagram art focused posting process, tying it into your art practice is really how you can do it in a way that lifts you and energizes you. And then you're going to start posting more and then you're going to be making more art, and it just gets better and better and better. And you just get to improve in it. It's just like your art. You're never going to arrive at it, but you're just in the chase of it, which is all about. That's all what we're doing in the art. It's so cool. Each little step, each little aha, the things you notice, track it. Have that sketchbook, write these things down, share what you're learning, and just be in it. It's like you're just on this journey. And that's all the content that comes out of this practice that you're involved in. Awesome. I'm looking at this painting now, realizing that, you just can't help it. Whenever you look at your work and you come back after you haven't seen it for a while, and I'll do this sometimes, I'll come back in and I'll take a picture when I start, right? Like, if I'm going to paint on this painting here, I want to take a picture of this. Something's wrong with this. And that might be an interesting post. It's a little weak, and I think it has to do I'm not quite sure, but I'm wanting to fix this. And I could talk about that. I could talk about how, it seemed pretty good the other day, but I think it has to do with just the darks or I don't know, it's just a little conservative. It's just not really working yet. I'm liking this one a bunch more, but that's an interesting post. So your post can come at the end after you finish your little art session, but it's also cool to do it when you walk in and you realize something. Wow, this is what the painting looked like when I came in. And then, later in the day, this is how it ended up. I figured it out. All right, you guys, I hope this was really, really helpful. This has made a huge difference for me. It took something that was such drudgery and something that I was just avoiding all the time and has made it really, really fun. And it shows in the grid, in the whole Instagram, in your post. There should be an energy and fun felt in it. That's the whole key, because people love that, right? And you should too. All right, guys, thanks so much. And I will see you next time on the Art to Life podcast. Thanks so much. And if this was valuable and you found it helpful, please share this. That would be awesome. It turns out that the algorithms love it when more people listen, and especially if you subscribe, or you can go and leave a comment, a review. That's really good as well. Thanks so much, you guys. I will see you real soon.